December 10th, 1541. A bitter cold morning grips London, but crowds gather before sunrise at Tyburn. Something extraordinary is about to happen. This isn't an ordinary execution. It's the most humiliating death of the century. Francis Dereham, only 26 years old, is about to suffer a punishment so horrifying that even veteran executioners recoil. What crime could deserve such cruelty? To understand, we go back 5 years, to a tale of love, ambition, and betrayal that began in the shadowy halls of the English nobility. 1536. A nation in fear. King Henry VIII has already changed England forever. He's broken from the Catholic Church, executed Queen Anne Boleyn, and established a rule where terror keeps the nobles in line. No one is safe, not even queens. In this atmosphere of dread, a young girl enters the royal court. She is Catherine Howard, only 15, and niece of the powerful Duke of Norfolk. Beautiful, golden-haired, and elegant, she is sent to court to serve as a lady-in-waiting. But Catherine isn't just a noble girl. She carries a dangerous secret that will bring ruin to those who love her. Francis Dereham, a rising star. Francis Dereham, then 21, was of minor nobility in Norfolk. Through connections, he gained a position in the Duke's household. Handsome and charming, he quickly became popular among the young courtiers. Catherine, living under relaxed supervision, had much freedom in the Duke's home. This freedom became the setting for a passionate and forbidden relationship. Francis and Catherine met in secret. They exchanged love letters, jewelry, and vows. In their eyes, they were husband and wife before God. Even without ceremony, their love was real. But in Tudor England, love could be deadly. When love turns dangerous. In 1539, Catherine was sent to serve Anne of Cleves, Henry's fourth wife. At court, her beauty caught the aging king's eye. By mid-1540, Anne was discarded, and Catherine became Queen of England. Francis was heartbroken, but still hopeful. He believed Catherine's rise wouldn't erase what they once shared. He even approached her at court, speaking openly of their past. Worse, he implied he had rights over her because of their private marriage. This was dangerous. A queen's purity was sacred. If Catherine's past was revealed, it could destroy her and him. Trying to silence Francis, she gave him a position as her secretary, hoping it would satisfy him and protect her secret. But Francis misunderstood. He believed she still loved him. He pushed for more attention. He believed he deserved recognition, as if he were still her husband. Whispers begin. Then came trouble. A man from Catherine's past, Henry Mannix, her old music teacher, began spreading rumors. Whispers of her previous lovers reached the king. Henry VIII, already paranoid from Anne Boleyn's betrayal, launched an investigation into Catherine's past. The inquiry uncovered everything: the love letters, the gifts, and the secret meetings. Even worse, it was revealed that Catherine had continued seeing other men. Thomas Culpeper, a member of the king's chamber, after her marriage, the king exploded in rage. Not only had he been fooled as a husband, he'd been dishonored as a king. Francis Dereham had touched what was now royal property. In Henry's eyes, this wasn't just adultery, it was treason. November 1541, the Tower of London loomed like a stone tomb. It was here that Francis Dereham was imprisoned. No longer a lover, but now branded a traitor. His crime? Loving a woman who became queen. Now, his past had caught up with him, and King Henry VIII was ready to make him an example. The investigations moved quickly. Francis was pulled from his cell and brutally interrogated. At first, he denied the full extent of his relationship with Catherine. He claimed it had been innocent, a youthful flirtation. But the royal interrogators had proof. dozens of letters, eyewitness accounts, and private gifts that matched the Queen's possessions. Most damning were Catherine's own words, written to Francis years earlier. "My dear husband." It was not just an affair. It was evidence that the Queen may not have been a virgin at marriage. For Henry, that was unforgivable. The crime, treason by intimacy. The Crown's lawyers didn't need physical betrayal after marriage to build a case. Instead, they argued that Francis had corrupted a future queen. Worse, he had later used this past intimacy to manipulate her. In Henry's mind, it wasn't just personal betrayal. It was an attack on royal dignity. Francis was charged with treason, not for espionage or violence, but for defiling a woman destined for the king. The law allowed the severest punishments for such cases, especially when the royal bloodline was in question. But Henry wanted more than death. He wanted public humiliation. The ritual of destruction. King Henry consulted ancient legal texts for the harshest punishment ever recorded for treason. He selected the full penalty for traitors to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. It was the most painful, degrading death the state could impose. The sentence was clear. Francis would be dragged through London's muddy streets, tied behind a horse. He would then be hanged until nearly dead, cut down alive. Next, he would be castrated and his organs pulled out. While still breathing, his abdomen would be open and his insides removed. Lastly, he would be beheaded and quartered, with his body parts displayed across the city. It wasn't just punishment. It was performance designed to frighten the nation. A trial without mercy. Francis's trial began in late November. But it was no real trial. The outcome had been decided the moment King Henry heard Catherine's past. No judge would dare defy the king. No lawyer could save him. The tribunal found Francis guilty and sentenced him to die publicly on December 10th. As news spread, the public grew curious. Not everyone loved the king, but few dared oppose him. To many, Francis was both criminal and victim, guilty of love, yet condemned like a monster. The Queen's fate was still undecided. But Francis's execution was moving forward, slowly and with spectacle, preparations for horror. In the days leading up to the execution, rumors spread like wildfire. What would be done to the Queen's old lover? Would he cry out? Would he beg for mercy? Executioners made special preparations. The gallows at Tyburn were reinforced. Ropes were measured to keep the victim alive, but barely. Fire-heated blades and hooks were sharpened for the tasks ahead. It would be a death no Englishman would forget. December 10th, 1541. At dawn, the gates of the Tower of London opened. Francis Dereham, pale and shackled, was tied to a wooden hurdle. A horse dragged him through the frozen, muddy streets of London. Crowds lined the roads. Some cursed him. Others watched in silent horror. It took 2 hours to reach Tyburn, the site of public executions. Francis's clothes were torn, his body bruised. Yet the real nightmare was only beginning. A special gallows had been built for him, taller, sturdier, crueler than the rest. Over 3,000 people had gathered. Nobles looked on from balconies. Even foreign ambassadors came to witness the brutal event. This was no ordinary death. It was a message from the king. No one touches the Queen and lives. The first stage, the hanging. Francis was hoisted by the neck and left to struggle for breath. Just as he began to lose consciousness, the rope was cut. He collapsed, gasping. The crowd jeered and laughed. Then it was repeated, 3 times. Each time, he came closer to death, only to be pulled back into pain. The second stage, castration. Still alive, he was laid out on a table. The executioner took a heated blade and cut off his genitalia. Francis screamed, a sound so horrifying that even the crowd fell silent. The wound was cauterized with hot iron to keep him alive for what came next. The third stage, disembowelment. With Francis barely conscious, the executioner opened his abdomen and removed his internal organs. One by one, they were displayed to the crowd. Finally, his heart was torn out and shown to him, his eyes still fluttering, just moments before death claimed him. The final stage, quartering. His body was then beheaded and his corpse cut into 4 parts. His head was placed on a spike. His limbs were scattered across the city's gates, grim warnings for anyone who might betray the crown. The entire execution lasted nearly 5 hours. Even in a violent age, it shocked the public. Chroniclers described it as unfit for Christians. The Queen's End. 2 months later, in February 1542, Catherine Howard was tried and executed. She was only 17 or 18. Unlike Francis, she was granted a quick, clean beheading, one final mercy for her rank. She died wearing the dignity of a queen, even as her past consumed her. Legacy of terror. Francis's execution became a turning point. Across Europe, letters describe the scene in horror. Ambassadors wrote to their kings, calling Henry VIII a tyrant without mercy. Rather than protecting royal honor, the king had stained it. Tyburn is gone now. No plaque marks where Francis died. Few remember his name, but his story remains a warning of how power can destroy love and how vengeance can replace justice. Francis Dereham died not just for treason, but for touching a queen's heart before a king's hand claimed it.